Hello, my science lovers. Today we are talking about junk food addiction. Well, just food addiction in general. So grab a coffee if it's morning. Get your caffeine addiction on. If it's evening or afternoon, do what you gotta do. We're about to get started. First, I'm going to thank my patrons. I need to add a few people to my video, so hopefully I'll get that video done soon for it. I'm so excited to have you here. You make Saturdays awesome for me. Nearly time. I need to add the Derp State, Mark, Brian. You guys are new patrons, so thank you. Thank you so much, David. You're amazing for that. So, let's get this going. Hey guys, I'm in a really cool loose shirt, so I'm keeping my eye on that. How you doing today? This is a pretty awesome awesome thing going on here. I've got a bit of a thing called food addiction. This is what we're talking about. I'm going to take a moment to say thank you for David. He is my first $100 patron. Oh my goodness, so thank you, David. I also want to give a shout out really quickly to Andy, who gave me a $200 super chat last night. Andy's sending me a new computer soon, so I'll have better stuff going on. So, let me get, where did my chat go? That's not it. There's the chat, but that's not my video. Here we go. This is better. You love the theme song. That's awesome. I'm so glad you guys like the theme song. So, what are we going to talk about with junk food addiction? Here we go. I need to get more organized with the thing. Yeah, no jammies this time. I thought maybe I would not wear my jammies this morning, as I was wearing my jammies last night when we did our scientist sing-along. It was 7,000 followers on Twitter now, and over 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. So that's pretty freaking awesome. You guys are amazing for that. So thanks for all of the support. So no jammies at the moment, but it's still kind of lounging around the type of clothes, oversized shirts. It's got some biker shorts on, I dress up super nice for you guys, clearly. What can I say? Hello, Wayne from Canterbury, England. Oh, hello, Stacy. Stacy, are you a future STEMinist? Are you a future scientist in training? So good morning. Well, it's probably afternoon there in Canterbury, England. So hello, Stacy. I'm so glad you guys are here. Yeah, we definitely need coffee. Hey, Doc. Hey, Orla Seraph. And Nana. Yay. And Jimmy's here. Hey, Axel. Axel's a friend of mine from NASA. He's a NASA science ambassador. So he's a pretty cool dude. Go follow him on Twitter. Hey, so we're talking about, yes, addiction is all kinds of things. So this is pretty much what we're going to talk about today. Food addiction, junk food can kind of lead to this. And this is a thing. It used to not be a thing in science, but it is now. Hey, Andrew. So what is it? We're going to talk about what it is. There are variances to that. And so it's important to note that some people might conflate certain eating disorders with food addiction. And that's not necessarily the same thing. How does it happen? What goes on in your brain? How can you get addicted to junk food? You know? And how can it be overcome? That's a tricky thing there. So we're going to talk about all of these different things today. So essentially this is the breakdown. This is what we got. So I'm going to slide you guys over here for a second. All right. So this is what we got here. Processed foods have really high fat and sugar content. This actually affects the reward system of your brain. So over time, you require more food in order to feel that reward. But eventually, at some point in time, you just don't get that reward. This can contribute to weight gain and health problems, as well as withdrawal symptoms when you stop eating the junk food. Guys, you know, so people who are addicted to food, man, it's like drugs. So it's really important that we kind of have a bit more sympathetic towards those individuals who have junk food addiction or food addiction in general. So I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about this today. Somebody's having dumplings. I'm 15 minutes away from ordering dumplings. Oh my goodness. Well, dumplings may not be a thing. So here we got this thing going on here. Junk food. My daughter's solution, removal of 80% of her stomach. Well, it's interesting that you say that. They've done studies on people with bariatric surgery and how their brain scans are similar to that of people who are addicted to drugs. And so they look at that. I don't do junk food. It messes with my girlish light figure. I'm sorry. So highly processed foods. It's high fat, high sugar. It rewards your brain and fires off those pleasure centers. So it makes you want to eat more. And you repeat this, you gain what's called an addiction. So it's not anything that it's like super, hey, yay, I'm addicted to junk food. So here, boom, there you guys are. Chinese pork with sweet chili sauce. I haven't had breakfast yet. Bad ScientistMel. I have not had breakfast yet. I literally woke up. I did give me some coffee, so guys, hey look. May the 4th be with you today. And it's free comic book day, coincidentally. I have somebody currently at the comic book store because normally I go, but that's okay. I'm here with you guys. Somebody's getting my free comics for me. Yeah. So, let's talk about this. This can be, this is a pretty hefty thing. So what I want to say, before I get started, I want to first say this. I will not body shame anyone or shame people for what they eat. This is not what I do here, and I don't allow that on my channel. People are doing the best they can with what they've got, and that is how I see things. What I am going to do is inform on how it is people can get addicted to junk food. I am not making a moral judgment, and I will not judge anyone for eating junk food. Your body, your rules. I respect that. My only stance is when people make decisions that hurt others. With that said, let's discuss this. So, I want to just put that out there because there are people who actually have trauma associated with food, and they have body image issues, and they have anxiety and depression associated with that. So I am not gonna body shame anyone, and I would never do that. Your body, your rules, and that's how I feel. So I'm having pizza for breakfast. You know, I could have pizza for breakfast. I'm trying to eat a bit healthier, and I'll talk a little bit of anecdotal stuff. Don't take away our bacon. Bacon! Yes, I do like bacon. So let's talk about junk food. Junk food, due to its highly processed nature, fires off the mesolimbic system in the brain that releases dopamine. This can also affect the serotonin portion of the brain. So I'm going to show you what that looks like in a second. The feel-good neurotransmitter, dopamine, serotonin, right? If junk food is indulged in at large amounts over a period of time, the brain develops a tolerance. Food addiction literally changes your brain. So what it does is it trains your brain to want more of this junk food feeling. With this, you end up eating more and more to try to gain that feeling again. People with food addiction sometimes lose the ability to enjoy their food and keep going with it until they find that feeling again. Food addiction is a new emerging field. So I want you to keep that in mind. This is all this is pretty new science. People didn't even explore this as a thing until they started to see more of behavior patterns that were similar to those of people addicted to different types of drugs. It met with a lot of resistance, as a lot of science does in the beginning. It is how we know that something is real and not just a possibility. Every single new thing that comes out in science, this is what's important to note. Scientists, now there may be scientists who were body shaming and fat shaming. That's aside. Science in itself goes through in a way and scrutinizes every single thing. So before I start getting into the fact that it was met with resistance, that's every single thing that comes out in science. It's non-discriminatory in that regard. Any new idea that challenges societal notions or challenges anything that we've thought of in the past is going to be met with resistance. And how you counter that is with evidence. So, around 2009, and certainly even earlier, the term food addiction was under fire. Since then, science has made leaps and bounds in food addiction science, showing not only the behavioral aspects of food addiction, but what it does to your brain to make you want it more. They have found the same link in people who have gained weight from eating such junk food and such food in general, in not only behavior, but also in their brain scans. So this is something that's pretty interesting and important in that. So let me catch up on the chat really quickly. Sugar and salt, yes. Can I make an immoral judgment? My body doesn't seem to want to follow the rules. Oh, goodness. Don't body shame yourself. Nah. Don't do that. N-A. I have a jar of bacon jelly in the fridge. You put it on toast. It's weird. Yeah, pizza is good for breakfast. You know, it can be. If I eat pizza, I tend to go with better options for it, like a thinner crust. I pick, if there's like extra cheese, no, I just do regular cheese, thinner crust. I go with the tomato sauce instead of the white sauce, like the Alfredo sauce. And because I like pizza, I'll go with like grilled chicken, and then I'll load all kinds of veggies on there. So if I'm going to eat something like that, it's still not low calorie because of, the sugars in the crust, but it's a better option than what I would pick if I really wanted those dopamine things to fire off, because I'm susceptible to this and I know this. And so, it's a struggle. I had an x-ray of the head. X-ray showed nothing. You guys are funny. Oh my goodness, you guys are funny. So, here we go. Take a look at this. Here is your brain in general. I was going to say, here's your brain on food. Here's your brain on drugs. I'm showing my age by sitting here saying, this is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. The egg in the frying pan. You guys remember that? That was around when I was like really little. So here's your brain on food addiction. Essentially what happens is the dopamine pathways. This affects your reward and motivation. that gives you this pleasure, this euphoric feeling. Whether or not it affects motor function in regard to food addiction, the jury's still out on that, but it still can increase compulsion to where you keep eating and you can't stop. And these particular pathways are connected to your serotonin pathways. And so what you see here with the red lines, that's the serotonin pathways. And with the blue lines, that's the dopamine. So anywhere where you see red, those are the different structures that are associated with serotonin. And where you see blue, those are the structures associated with dopamine. Can a food addiction be positive? I mean, after my resident health issues, I lost a lot of weight but developed a temporary addiction to drinking Coke until I put most of it back on. See, it's a delicate fine line if you're needing to gain weight, and you were having issues with that. I think as long as you're under counsel with your doctors, that's what you've got to kind of keep in mind. I used to eat a frozen pizza every night to help with the previous job. I see. Huh. Well, that's interesting. The power of bacon compels me. I understand the love of bacon. Out here, they have something particularly evil. Maple bacon cupcakes. And they essentially brown sugar bacon. This brown sugared bacon where it's caramelized on the outside. All that high salt, sugar, and fat in a tasty little crispy thing. It's amazing. I had it one time and I'm like, yeah, I can never do this again. No. And I don't need to learn how to make it because I'm really good at cooking. So no, none of that for me. Because it gives me the tingles. I get the tingles. I feel that reward and that pleasure from eating certain foods. So I know I can easily get addicted to certain types of foods. But that's where knowledge about yourself and self-awareness is extremely important. So if you feel, and it's down to the individual, it's up to you how you feel about things because everybody's different. So here, this is your brain on bacon. On sugar-coated, brown sugar caramelized bacon that I had. Everything. It feels like little tingles all over your head. Coincidentally, when I run really hard, I get the same kind of feeling. But there's science for that too, with the runner's high is a real thing. So I could get the same feelings from this if I go and exercise. But I've been kind of super exhausted for various personal reasons. But I'm moving back that way. I'm steadily shifting to where I'm getting to where I'm, and I'll talk a bit more about how you can do that if that's something that works for you. Always extra cheese. So, just like in drug addiction, so getting back on topic, just like in drug addiction, food addiction can affect the different reward systems in the brain in multiple structures. It can alter them so you develop a tolerance. The high intake of processed foods affects the delicate balance not only among the dopamine center, but also the serotonin. So when you take away the junk food, all of the structures affected by the higher dopamine release and all of those structures that were affected by the higher dopamine release, you start to experience withdrawal symptoms. You can experience withdrawal from stopping intake of junk food. So that's something that you got to kind of keep in mind. So you get that feeling. Oh, you get that feeling from your first bite of a perfectly cooked steak. I'll talk about a little experiment I did, and you can try this at home and see how you do with it. So it's important to kind of note that. So when I was figuring this out, when I was going through and grabbing everything that I could find, because I already know a bit about food addiction. I already have some knowledge of addiction in general from what I've done in previous shows. But there's so much information now about food addiction that I went down this rabbit hole looking at all of the connections between that and drug addiction. Brain scans of people who are addicted to food look exactly like brain scans of people who are addicted to drugs. Now, on a personal note, I mentioned this, I easily can be addicted to food. I tried an experiment once and took away the junk food. I did. I used to eat, I really liked certain type of nachos from Taco Bell. I really, really did. So I stopped eating fast food for a bit. I felt icky, I felt moody, and I was sluggish. I also noticed after about 6 months of not eating fast food, the moment that I ate some nachos, I felt tingles all over my body. I know how food affects me. Food addiction, and keep in mind, food addiction is not exclusive to people of size. People of smaller size can struggle with that as well. However, the genetics involving those who are of a smaller size and addicted to food, they have a higher metabolism. This is genetically based. Those are genes. But they certainly are not immune to the effects on the brain. My point, junk food addiction is not exclusive to people of size, and no one should be shamed for this, right? So there are various eating disorders. There are various eating disorders. I'm checking up on the chat while I'm doing this, which may or may not have a link to food addiction. Binge eating disorder, also known as BED, is not the same as food addiction. It is a compulsory thing where people binge about once a week for months, but then they stop. However, binge eating disorder and food addiction are not mutually exclusive. Overeating in general can be different than food addiction. So if a person feels like they are addicted to food, the best course of action is to first contact your doctor. And if you feel like you're addicted to food and you want to change, I need to preempt all of this with that. If you are happy, don't worry about it. If you feel like it's a problem, first contact your doctor. Look into psychologists who work with addiction, particularly those who understand, who are also possibly dietitians. Now it's important to know, dietitians are not the same as nutritionists. Dietitians have certification through the U.S. They are actually certified. Nutritionists don't have to be. So if you look for a nutritionist, make certain that they are certified through the appropriate boards as the same way as dietitians. They can also be psychologists that are certified dietitians. So look for those individuals because they will be familiar with food addiction. Also, consider psychiatrists to help with possible medications to break the addictive cycle, particularly if you already suffer other types of anxiety or mental illness. And look to other healthy activities that might be able to give you that high again, but not necessarily connected with food. Now, it's important to note your intake, as many people who are addicted to food, junk food, lose the ability to control themselves. They lack the ability to stop. They keep going. Your brain, in this case, is now wired to make you mentally need this type of food. This is not an easy thing to fight against. This is also why a therapist is important in breaking this cycle. It is an active struggle. You have to force yourself to not indulge in this food with your brain screaming at you to do it. So keep this in mind when you have people who are part of your life who are struggling with food addiction. They may or may not know that they struggle, but if they're trying, it's extremely important to be supportive because their brain is telling them, eat it, eat it. You need this stuff. We need this stuff. Oh my God, what are you doing to yourself? And so there are legitimate withdrawal symptoms that can cause them to change their mood and feel horrible. It's not a fun thing to go through. Studies have shown that within the past, the worst case of junk food withdrawal, your body will go through it. It's usually the first 3 to 5 days. If you can get through those first 3 to 5 days, maybe take a week off from work if you can, If you have a vacation, vacation days, take a week, eliminate the food out of your house. And keep less food in your house. Only buy the food that you need when you need it. So if you don't have the food in your house, it's harder to get, and it takes more of an effort to get in your car and go and grab said food. But that you can make a conscious effort, like, what am I doing? So there's things like that to consider. Good morning, everybody. Let me catch up on the chat. I didn't drink beer or soda for 2 years, only water. I felt invincible. Yes, Nachos Bel Grande. That's the thing, man, isn't it? Addiction and withdrawal of any kind is awful. Yes, it is. But I kind of want to point out the fact that people who have food addiction, and particularly junk food addiction, because that can kind of lead into the food addiction, they suffer horrible withdrawal symptoms. Now, they're going to be slightly different than somebody who's coming off of cocaine or heroin or something like that. I get that. But the same mechanisms are there in the brain. And to be fair, some say, well, you can still have food in your life and it not kill you like cocaine or heroin. Yeah, but you also have a McDonald's almost on every other corner. You also have, Krispy Kreme, donuts, high sugar stuff. You can't very well walk into a McDonald's and say, give me a bag of heroin. But you can certainly do that with other food items there. So it's there, and it's legal, and it's so easy to be able to do that. It's pretty interesting. After there were people that were suing McDonald's for contributing to their food addiction, and it caused them to gain so much weight they developed health conditions. Shortly after that, the United States passed laws to where you cannot sue fast food corporations for weight gain or anything associated with any health problems. That was legislation that came out. So you can't sue fast food companies for contributing to your food addiction because they feel like you should know better. So there you go. The government does not have your back on that. So, oh my goodness. I look like a crazy person at the grocery store. I will say out loud, no, as I walk past the cookies. I do that with candy. I do that with cookies. I do that with chips. I do the same thing, nah. I do the exact same thing. I swear at them under my breath as I'm walking by. I completely get that, and I totally understand. So, no shame, man. I'm the same way. So it takes a conscious effort. And if that's what you need, that's what you need, right? It's a conscious struggle. The struggle is real. Takes constant effort. That's what you do, man. I'll move you guys right there, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't matter. All right, but you're there. So what are the symptoms? So if you think that you might be addicted to food and you want to analyze that and dig down a bit further, some of the symptoms are overeating. You continuously want to eat a certain type of food, and you continue to do it even when you're not hungry. So this is still happening, and you're like, okay. It's some other symptoms. You eat to the point of being ill. You make yourself ill eating. You worry about food, and you go out of your way to eat a specific food. So if you don't have a particular food in your house, you will get in your car, you will drive there, you will go and get it, you will eat it there in your car or back in your house. But you will go out of your way to get that type of food to eat it. You will eat food instead of doing other things. You'll eat food instead of doing your work or going to work. Before I get into that, you need to keep in mind, all right, with these symptoms, people are highly individual at different levels of addiction. It is important to keep in mind that this too is a spectrum. Addiction is a spectrum. If you feel like you might be addicted and want to shift your lifestyle choice or choices, seek professionals to help you because each case is different. And I don't mean just your standard doctor. Do that, but then go beyond there. Now, if you are eating food instead of doing things, you opt to stay home and eat instead of going to work or interacting with people that you love, people that, and I don't mean, now I say that there's abusive people. You don't want to be around people that call you fat and are mean and not very nice. Not that, but still. If you avoid functions where food is present because you're afraid you're going to overindulge and overeat, if you experience withdrawal symptoms, when you remove that in the form of anxiety, you can have anxiety and agitation. That's part of it. So if these are things that concern you, then by all means, please go to a professional and start assessing what the different things are that you can do. Now, what do we do about treatment? Treatment. That's important, isn't it? What do we do about treatment? You've done all of those things? Well, I mean, if you're a happy person and you feel like that this is not an issue, that is completely different. If you feel like this is affecting your life or your quality of life, and you want to make a change, that's when you start jumping in and go, okay, I need to make a change. This is really affecting my life. I'm unhappy. That's something different. If you're not unhappy and you're absolutely happy with your life and, your body, your choice, I'm not going to shame you for eating junk food, So, treatment. If you do decide okay, I'm not happy, I want to change things. Treatment is going to be individual and take time. Changing your brain is a hefty task, all right? It's a big freaking deal. Now, it can be done, but it is work. Anyone who suffers a mental illness or any kind of addiction will tell you that therapy is hard. You're like, oh, I'll go to therapy and I'll feel better. Well, feel better doesn't necessarily mean that every time you go to therapy, you're going to feel great. Therapy is work. It is a lot of work, and it requires you to keep at it. So you're going to have days that are horrible, and you're going to have therapy sessions that are going to exhaust you because you have a lot to take in and process. Now, because we are a must-have-it-now society with our instant gratification through online interaction, this makes it particularly difficult as we have this instant want in other facets of our life. So if you are a junk food or food addict, be kind to yourself. Listen to professionals who are experts in this field and understand that this can happen to absolutely anyone and does. I'll show you my sources in a bit, but there's a food addiction organization that was established in 2005. So this has been a thing, at least the term has been coined for a while. So they quote stats, and their stats are 50% of obese people, 30% of those overweight, and 20% of those at a healthy weight are addicted to food. This happens to literally anyone. Size doesn't freaking matter. People can be addicted to food and weigh 100 pounds and be hiding from the world as they sit in their house and avoiding things and let that encompass them. It is no different than anybody else who has a drug addiction. They can behave the same way. But it doesn't matter what the size. So we need to get off of that way of thinking, because that's not helpful. So treat it as it is. It's a thing that can happen to anyone. So no shame, no hate. That's what I mean by this. So let me catch up on the chat if you guys have any kind of questions. Oh goodness, I am so hungry right now. I should have had breakfast before I did this. But at least I have my coffee right now. So coffee is more important for me to function when I'm doing a show. You gained 40 pounds in the last 3 years. I gained probably 30 pounds in the course of a year and a half. So I completely understand. And that was largely due to stress. And I wasn't doing things that I normally do. Like I normally worked out like 3 to 5 days a week. I stopped doing that. Stress overcame me, and now I'm trying to move back to the healthier lifestyle that I had, because I felt better then. And even I recognize that. And so, but it's hard, I have to rewire my brain a little bit and go, okay, can't do this. I have to do this now. So, it's what you got to do sometimes, but hey, it's all right. Would those signs of addiction apply in other areas of life to other things? Yes. I actually did an episode on social media addiction. Social media, you can get addicted to that in gaming as well. Gamer addiction, like spending long times on the computer. That's actually in the DSM-5 now as a potential mental thing and a potential addiction. So we're moving towards that as well. Now I drink my coffee black, no sugar. So you can actually be addicted. Social media addiction is a new thing that they're looking into, but they do recognize that there is addiction qualities associated with like computer stuff as well. So, look into that. So you can fire off that reward system with other things, the runner's high. That's a thing that's real, and it can fire off similar brain structures for the reward and pleasure system. So you can check into that. It's hard for old people like us to lose weight. It is hard because if you've had certain lifestyle for a while, your brain is trained to think that way. For how long? So you only have the DSM-4. Get the DSM-5. It gets into that. No calories in coffee with no milk or sugar. See, I like to have creamer. And so what I'm trying to do is to shift away from the creamer, and I've got like really low-calorie almond milk. So I'm shifting towards that to where I still have like the creamy aspect, but an entire cup of almond milk is like 30 calories. When like 1 tablespoon or 2 tablespoons of, creamer was like 30 calories, even the sugar-free kind. So for me, I'm making small changes. Moving back steadily to where I'm not, you know what I mean? Because I know I have a tendency towards food addiction. And so that's something that I actively watch. Even though I may not be like a person of size, I feel I'm pretty curvy. I got some junk in the trunk. My jeans don't fit me right anymore. So I'm like, okay, yeah. My jeans don't fit me correctly anymore. They're really snug, and I'm just like, and those are my jeans when I like on the larger side. I don't, I have like a range. I could wear it from like a 6 to like a 10, depending on the jeans. So my 10s are kind of snug now. So I'm like, like really snug, like uncomfortable. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. Gotta go back down. So that's where I'm at. I think 12s would probably fit me a bit better right now, but I'm just like, no. But my dress sizes tend to be still around an 8 to a 10. But women's sizes are weird, and that doesn't do much for my body image anyway, because women, it's just, I'll have a little rant about that and I'll leave it. Women's clothing sizes are absolutely ridiculous. They are absolutely ridiculous. And so in one store, I could wear a 6. When I was like working out 5 days a week, and probably around 40 pounds less, I was about a size 6. But I was working out 5 days a week, constantly all up in that. And I'm like, yeah, I was doing it. But then, even as a size 6, I was a size 8 at other stores. And then I was like, okay, and then I was like, all right. So now I'm like around a 10. But see, the way that I carry weight, it's distributed all over. So I could gain some weight, but not change much in dress size. So to me, it all evens out. I still have a figure 8. My waist is 12 inches smaller than my chest or hips, and my chest and hips are the same size. It's always that way. I just gain it all over. So it's kind of strange, you know. Yeah, so, you know, I'm just like, so I'm at the point to where I feel a bit less overwhelmed with other things in my life, and I'm like, okay, now I can focus on getting back to my health goals. And, you know, I'm not particularly unhappy with the way that I look, but we all have our little things that we don't like. You know, we're human. So, you know, I'm changing things small, changing little small things over time. And I'm rewiring my brain that way. And if I want to get those highs, I've got to go to the gym. So I've got to go to the gym because I do actually get a high from working out. It's just getting to the gym and forcing myself to go through all of that to get the high. Now, once I start getting that high, then I'm like, I got to work out 5 days a week. And then, you know, so that I got to be careful with because I know that's a thing as well for me. So I can actually get addicted to the gym, and I have. But that wasn't necessarily healthy either. So I've got to go, okay, what's good for me? So that's the entire point of all of this. You have to know how your body works. And that just takes you playing around with stuff, which can be extremely annoying. Because for me, I tried intermittent fasting for about 2 weeks. Didn't do a thing. And all I found out was that my largest meals were in the evening, and that's not helping me. I can't eat a lot at night and then go to sleep, even if I'm fasting most of the day. That's not going to work with me. So I have to shift that and change that, and just, you know, that's just how I am. So I have to kind of reconfigure what's going on with me. And that's really, 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 really what it takes. If you are prone to certain types of addiction like myself, you know, and I'm not ashamed of that. It can literally happen to anybody. But I'm willing to learn about me and learn about you. Spend some time learning about you. Intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is where you only eat for 8 hours, and that's it. So I would only eat from 12 to 8. At the rest of the time, I wouldn't eat. But I found that even with that, because then that leaves 16 hours of not eating, to where you're fasting during that time, that wasn't working for me. That's what intermittent fasting is. So I was trying that. That wasn't working. Not at all. So even though I was eating less, the way that I was eating, my body was processing it differently, to where I wasn't losing anything. I didn't lose any weight for 2 weeks. I was eating around 12 to 1,500 calories, which is considerably less than what my basic needs are right now. So it's like, been around 1,200 calories. I wasn't, you know, it's like, hey, but I wanted to go. Here's just Murphy's Law for you. The week that I wanted to start, okay, I've got these days planned where I'm going to go and start exercising and start tracking stuff and everything. I have a Fitbit Ionic. It stopped working. So I'm waiting on my new one because I really do want to track, you know, my progress so I can look and make good decisions about what's working for me. Science, right? So I want to make good decisions about what's working for me and what's not working. You know what I mean? So, and I need that. And I need that so I can kind of keep track. And so I can kind of break it down and say, okay, well, this isn't working right now. I'm at a plateau, or this is working. Look at this. This is awesome. I need to do this for a bit. But your body gets a tolerance. And so you got to break that from time to time. Just like your brain, your body does the same thing. So yeah, you break fast. Oh my goodness. Chocolate and sweet craving is a side effect of my SNRIs. I get that. I hated working out at first, but as time went on, I looked forward to it and the results. Yep. Yeah, you do. You feel, I like to work out to the point that I have muscle failure. I like to work out to the point I'm exhausted because I sleep great. I sleep wonderful. I get the endorphins. I feel like I've done something. The thing that I hate doing is running on a treadmill. I hate that so much. But if it's too hot or too cold, I don't do so well in those conditions. So if I run, it has to be like within certain temperatures, or I just, and I'm very fair skinned. I don't want to sunburn, But there you go. I have chocolate because I can't stop eating it. Okay, so if you like chocolate, here's something for you. This worked for me because I like chocolate as well. All right, so here's a pro tip from ScientistMel, who absolutely loves chocolate and will eat it like a toddler if I really, really want to. This works for me. It may not work for you, but this works for me. Chocolate dipped strawberries are fantastic. Okay, I absolutely love chocolate dipped strawberries, So what I would do, I would get Hershey's cocoa, or if you like, you can get German chocolate cocoa powder. I'm talking about the powder. I get the powder, and I sprinkle it on strawberries. I just dust them. I dust the strawberries in the cocoa, and then I dust it in like I like Splenda. Splenda doesn't cause me any particular problems. It's made from sugar. It's an isomer of sugar that doesn't fit into your enzymes, so your body doesn't process Splenda. You just eliminate it, but you can still taste it. There's portions of Splenda that it interacts with more places on your taste buds. That's why it tastes sweeter. So you don't need so much of it. So I sprinkle strawberries with cocoa. I just like cocoa powder. And you're like, ooh, that's gross. No, listen. Then I put Splenda on top. Then I will take some sugar-free or like low-calorie whipped cream, and I will just, like the canned, because it's not that high in calories. So, or another thing you can do is, if you really want to, you could get some Greek yogurt, vanilla flavored Greek yogurt. It would probably be okay with that, but I just really like the idea of whipped cream because I feel like I'm having something special. So I get like the really reduced fat, low sugar whipped cream. You can get it in a can. I don't get the kind in the plastic tubs because there's different stuff in there that I think it's it's got some polymers in there that I don't think are good for you. So I just stick to the actual in a can whipped cream. So because your body, it'll break that down a bit easier. And then I'll spray it on there. And then I'll eat that, and it feels like I'm eating something super freaking sweet, and I get my cocoa fix just like that. And it allows me to feel like I'm having some chocolate, but then I'm getting some fiber. And berries are fantastic fruits. They are super loaded with all kinds of vitamins. They're not high in sugar. They're not like super high in sugar like you would see with oranges or apples, but they're still really, really good for you. So it feels like you're eating chocolate covered things, but in a ice creamy kind of way. And that's when if you don't like Splenda, man, don't do it. You might can find maybe stevia or something else, something else that suits you. Let's see. I'm catching up. I used to love the treadmill, watch TV, or listen to music and zone out. Yeah, I like zoning out. Zoning out feels good. Let's see. Thunderfoot is so politically dumb because if he wasn't, he has made a lot of tracking spreadsheets. You could collab with him for fitness, but alas, he's not good politically. I'm weird. Splenda has a soap-like aftertaste, and it can affect people differently. The only junk food I eat besides bacon is sour worm gummies. Splenda is gross. You don't, and if something else works for you, that's nice. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. But that's why it's important to find out what works for you. You know, but I don't know that I know about Thunderfoot, but that's okay. So let me show you guys what we've kind of talked about today. In case you just joined us, you can always go back and check out what we've done. We've talked about what food addiction, particularly junk food, does to your brain. What it is, what are the variances, how does it relate, if at all, to binge eating disorder and overeating in general. How does it happen? We've talked about the different parts of the brain that it affects and how it can actually become an addiction. And we've talked a little bit about how it can be overcome. But the essential breakdown is this. Just kind of wrapping up this portion. The essential breakdown is that processed foods have high fat and sugar, and it affects the reward and pleasure centers of the brain to where it kind of fires off like that. It requires more food over time to feel this type of reward. And so this can contribute to weight gain and thus health problems associated with that. Withdrawal symptoms occur when you stop. It's pretty, it can be pretty bad. Bad-tempered badgers just made a new channel exclusively for science videos. Oh my goodness. So I'm going to take a moment to show you my sources really quickly. So here's the big monitor. I'm going to kind of go through these. I think I've dealt primarily with the website issues for some reason since I started here. Let me just do this really quickly. Before I go through the sources, I have had issues with my website. And I've been in regular communication, actively telling them to get it together, or I'm going to be just like, anywho, I'm going to upload. I'm behind on uploading all of my slides, but ScientistMel.com is where you can find all of that. Let's see. Why do burgers from the fast food places leave an aftertaste for me that tastes like plastic? They're highly processed foods, and there's so many preservatives in there. Maybe that contributes a bit to that. All right, so take a look at this. There is so much information on NIH. There's so much information. You can kind of start if you want to kind of get to see, WebMD, that's a good starting point. And Psychology Today is a good starting point, but that's not where the science is. It just kind of is a breakdown of stuff. But NIH has so many articles. I went down that rabbit hole. Live Science is another easy to read article that kind of references other studies. You can go on drugabuse.gov and see how your brain is affected when you're addicted to drugs. It's similar to that of those who have addiction to food. But there's so much information of brain scans that they've done. Here's foodaddictioninstitute.org. They've been around since about 2005, founded by experts in the field, and they consistently stay up to date with the latest information. Hopkins Medicine, they get into the brain chemistry of food addiction. So it's all there for you to peruse. Bye, Vibrantly Brantley. Hey, Winkle. Thanks for hopping by last night. You and Nana were pretty cool. I know Jimmy was here last night, and, Andy was here as well. I think Andy's not on the chat today, but that's okay. So, let me tell you where you can find me, but you guys probably already know that. This is where you can find me. All these places. All of these different places. I'm going to set it right here for a second. ScientistMel.com, Patreon.com/ScientistMel. I have to thank David, who is my very, very, very first $100 patron. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. And I do try to message all of my patrons privately. I currently have a special for patrons $5 and over. You will get a handwritten postcard from me. So that special is going on for the next couple of weeks. And so I'll get those in and hand write you a special message. Maybe I'll write a poem. Maybe I'll write a haiku. But I will hand write snail mail and send you a postcard. So that's for patrons $5 and more. And then patrons on higher tiers get access to all kinds of different things, including exclusive artwork. Also, something that you may not know about. You need to change your email on Patreon. Okay, that's cool. That should be able to do that. So something else. I'm developing a shop, and you can go check it out now. I'm working with Peter from Gonna Go For It. And also, if you have any fan art, I am making gear, merch. And there's a whole section of the merch called Blocked By, where people who have bad behavior on the internet by blocking you for, whatever reason, and they particularly have problematic views and are a little bit not very nice, I have a whole section on ScientistMel.com on my shop called Blocked By, where I'll take the really not nice things that they say and do and make merchandise out of it into t-shirts, coffee mugs, all sorts of things, and all of the proceeds from those particular items will go to a particular charity, science research, or activists. So currently, I've actually been blocked by PETA, so I have a whole bunch of stuff about Blocked by PETA where all of the proceeds are donated to the World Wildlife Foundation. SJ is another person who is an apologist who tends to have a lot of really problematic things to say about anxiety and depression. So if you're blocked by SJ, I'm developing an entire bunch of t-shirts, as well as, because she has lots of problematic views. She blocked me because she had some really awful things to say about anxiety and depression. So all of the awful things that she has to say about that, I'll have a little blocked by symbol. And my followers, she started blocking my followers who never talk to her. So if you follow me, you're blocked by SJ, I have merch for you. So those proceeds will go towards the Anxiety and Depression Association of America. They do a lot of good work. And I believe she blocks people who are pro-choice. So we'll have a whole section of merchandise, Blocked by SJ, My Body, My Choice, Blocked by SJ, where the proceeds are donated to Planned Parenthood. Stuff like that. So all of these different things with people who have problematic views and bad behavior, I'm just going to turn it into something positive and donate the money to organizations that they hate. Organizations that do good work and are on the front lines of actually helping people with real things. So that's what I plan to do with that entire series. I'm going to branch out into Deepak Chopra. We'll be branching into David Avocado Wolf. Goop, we'll have a whole series just for Goop about being blocked by different individuals. I might even do Ken Ham stuff. So, why not? And then we'll have proceeds donated to organizations that counter these problematic views by oppressive ideology, that are not helpful. So maybe Blocked by Anti-Vaxxers will have money that's donated towards finding vaccines to different things that we don't have vaccines for, cancer vaccines and possibly even HIV. Now we do have HPV vaccine. We know that particular virus causes cervical cancer. So things like that. So that is the whole point of that section on ScientistMel.com/shop. I have other merchandise there that's all inspired by what I do here. So if you want to support me in that way, that's helpful. You can hop on Patreon. I also have a paypal.me/ScientistMel. Do one-time donation there or here in Super Chats. So it's always helpful to me because I'm usually in the hole every month for what I do because I have to pay for my website. I have to pay for gear. I pay for different apps that help me generate content as well as software. So, and I do this because we need to be louder than the people who promote incorrect information. And I want to be a source that people can respect and can come to and say, she's going to have the accurate information, and I'm going to do my best on that, to where people don't feel like they'll be ostracized for asking me questions, because I will never, ever, ever ostracize you for asking me a question if you genuinely want to learn. I'm not going to waste my time with people who don't want to learn, who just want to fight. I don't do that. And I don't really do debate stuff. I'm here to inform and educate, and that's the whole purpose of all of this. So you can absolutely check out all of that. Well, thank you, Winkle. And Nana's one of my patrons. Give them a shout out for being in the chat today. So I know Winkle always sends me super chats, which is awesome. So thank you. And so I haven't updated my patron video yet. So I'm going to say my newest patrons, and also David, who is now a $100 patron. I am so overwhelmed by that. I just, I like cried a little with happy tears from that. That was awesome. So I have new patrons, Mark, the Derp State, Rhetoric and Discourse, as well as Brian. They are my newest patrons, and I'm going to update the video. And so I have lots of goals associated with that. I want to do more writing, so hopefully all of the things are sorted out with my websites where I'll be able to do things. So I'm going to be writing more articles. So if there's particularly anything that you would like me to write about, I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes, Winkle, that is a Kingdom of Heaven poster behind me. I actually like Orlando Bloom a bit. I have a lot of movie stuff from actual movie theaters, and that was a poster from an actual movie theater. I'm also a Kevin Smith fan. I have a lot of his personal stuff that was signed by him and given to me. I've spent time with that, so I absolutely adore film. It's important to me, and I've made my own short films from time to time, so I appreciate the medium. So I'm going to take a moment. I'm going to thank my patrons because they do awesome. So that'll be the patron video that I show at the beginning. And I'm making a new one because I have new patrons and new tiers. They've moved to new tiers, and that's so exciting for me. And so it's always lovely. And so I try really, really hard to do the best I can. I still have a day job. But honestly, if all of my Twitter followers just gave me $1 a month, I would just be doing this. I would just be doing this. And then I could travel. And the goal eventually is to move towards making a science communication convention, to where we would have science communicators from all over in one place. And we would have like a whole section for the grown-ups. We'd have a section for the kids. We'd have panels that were talking about different things. Bring in even maybe some celebrities, and even have like different musical groups that are nerdy and love science to come out and perform. That's the goal. And I know that's a big goal and that's a big dream, but why not have a SciComm convention that's like, Comic-Con, except for science? So, yeah. So, thank you guys for being here. This has been the science of junk food addiction. So, there you go. Junk food addiction, the science of all of that. And that happened today. And if you missed it, it's still there for you to watch later. So I will end with Mr. Rogers, because I love Mr. Rogers. You always make each day special for me. You know how? By just your being you. I will see you next Saturday. And next Thursday, I will have somebody on to talk about This Week in BS. We will be talking about bees, the myths associated with bees, pesticides, and how to help promote the bee population. So, hey, I will see you guys later. Sending squishy science hugs. And thank you, Mark, the Derp State, Brian, and Rhetoric and Discourse, my newest patrons. I'm going to make a new video for you guys. So thank you. Sending squishy science hugs. Bye.